CRN TV is connecting you with the industry leaders who are protecting us from the latest security threats. Join me, Cass Cooper, as we highlight the expertise of women who are driving innovation and solving today's toughest cyber challenges. Welcome to Channel Women in Security. Hello, welcome to Channel Women in Security. I am Cass Cooper, your host, and it is my honor to talk to a friend of CRN, Addie Finch. We know you from Cato Networks and the longstanding relationship that we have with you all. Y'all are a staple in the channel, and we appreciate everything that you do for the ecosystem. But Addie, before we get into the questions about Channel, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself to the audience, and then I'll ask you a couple questions.
Okay, sounds good. Like you said, I'm Addie Finch. I live in the Carolinas. I run between two cities, one having a great airport, Charlotte, North Carolina, and the other kind of being what I consider home, Greenville, South Carolina. Yes, covering a big territory for Cato Networks. So having that direct airport hub is important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as VP of Channels in the Americas, you have a lot of responsibilities. But before we get into that, I want to talk about your background as a journalist. Tell us how you moved from journalism to channel and cybersecurity. What does that look like? What
Man,
was that journey?
it was definitely a journey. I joke now that I went from the TV channel to the technology channel. That's my little tagline. But no, it was one of those moves where every job hop was one step closer to I think where I was destined to be, which was in this channel. I went to University of South Carolina, majored in broadcast journalism, spent 5 years as a TV news reporter and anchor. I then decided I was going to go on the other side of the camera. And so I went into corporate communications for a nuclear power company. And I spent a number of years doing that. So instead of asking the questions, I was answering them. And then now TD Synnex, at the time it was just Synnex, came calling and they said, hey, you were really good at boiling down really complex messages to easy to digest information. We'd love to take that skill set and help our sales reps who are kind of 10,000 miles wide and an inch deep on a number of products get better at selling some of the ones we think have a high propensity to grow. And so it was really that communications and messaging background that became the jump off point for my career in the channel.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think what so many women in particular, we don't really think about, okay, well, I'm not a zeros and ones technical person, so how do I make that leap? And what is the journey and what does that look like? And what I love about your story is that you have taken the things that make you you and the education that you have in the background and utilize it to propel you forward. And I think we just need more of that, more people who are focused on those kinds of things. So congratulations to you and moving into this new kind of space.
Yeah, yeah.
Looking back, is there anything that you would tell your younger self now?
And it's believe in yourself. For better or worse, I've always had confidence in myself. And I look at so many women that struggle with that. It's either self-doubt or thinking, I could never do that. Somebody could do that better. They have that experience. I don't. And I think I've just taught myself over and over that we can learn anything. I learned how to be a TV news anchor. I then had to learn how a nuclear power plant operates in order to speak proficiently about it. I then had to learn networking and UCC solutions and security. And I found the other day there's a file I keep, and it's just some little mementos from my career. And it was this scratch pad, little chicken scratch. Me learning the 7 layers of the OSI model, like in the first 3 months when I was at Synnex. And I kept that page just to remind myself that there was a time when I knew absolutely nothing about this industry, about technical knowledge of all these different solutions that I'm now talking about. But I challenged myself to learn something new. And I think that's what I'm constantly kind of trying to drive into my teams is never stop being curious, because that's a lot of times our secret weapon that propels us forward.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about individual acumen and learning, and I am a big fan. When I was in sales, that was the thing. The ABCs are not always be closing, it's always be curious.
Yeah.
So, what about organizational support? So, what do you think organizations can do to help support people and encourage folks who are maybe not zeros and ones technical folks who really do have high propensity for learning.
It's one of the best lessons I've learned in that regard was from the person who took a chance on me. And I'll never forget the interview. I'm sitting in the office of one of the SVPs at Cenex interviewing for this job, and he wasn't worried about everything you just said. She's not technical. She's never even been in sales. She doesn't even know what distribution does or what the technology channel is. I'm going to have to teach her all of that. But what he did is he looked for those soft skills. This is a person who's driven. So at the time he was looking at my resume and saw I made B in all of college. The one B has still to this day killed me. But he goes,
Stop it.
you can't teach a person drive. Like this is a person who is driven. This is a person who's self-motivated. This is a person who wants to succeed. And we can't mess that up. And literally to this day, that sticks in my head. Like if you find that person who has that self-motivation, that drive, a lot of times I love to hire former college athletes, or maybe they've been in the minor leagues or something. If you have that competitive edge, there's certain things where you go, they've got the makings. I can teach them this world. I can teach them this industry. And I remember often what he said, we can't mess this up. We can teach them this.
Yeah, I think that's really great. Well, let's talk a little bit about Cato Networks and your role and all the things that you've learned. I often look around and I'm wondering, how did I get to be the wise one in the room? I still feel like I'm 19. There's a generational shift, right? What do you see happening in cybersecurity right now?
Yeah, it's interesting because you've got kind of the multi-general aspects of running and leading a team. You've also got this multi-general aspect of what we're delivering in terms of the solution we're bringing to market. And in both scenarios, we're having to remember like there's a pivot point. There's a new way of doing things. The old guard, so to speak, is no longer the only way of doing things. So when we talk about Cato Networks, I think back to when Shlomo Kramer founded Cato Networks. He was a man who had co-founded Checkpoint, the firewall company, co-founded Imperva, was sitting on the boards of multiple different cybersecurity point solution companies. He could have kept doing the same thing again. He could have gone and founded yet another point solution cybersecurity company. Instead, he stepped back and he said, there's got to be a different way of doing things. I am going to deliver a new way of enterprise security, a platform approach. Why can't we deliver all these security services through a single platform, through a cloud delivered model? And so I think that right there just teaches me that whether it's the product we're talking about or whether it's leading a team, there's often no one way of doing things. We're always one decision or one step away from potentially a better way. And so keeping your mind open to that, I think, is so critical.
One of the things I love is improv. I think it's such a great tool for communication. And what you just said is very much that yes and approach of yes, I can do that and we can do this instead of being a no but type
Yes.
of environment. Yeah. So when we're talking about kind of the future and cybersecurity, where do you see networking going? What is your insight into what's next?
Yeah, I think there's so much. I look at this just collision course of transformation happening out in the channel as a result of that collision course the customer is on. Number one, they are now moving away from this individual fragmented point solution, best of breed approach to securing their networks. They're moving towards platforms that drive greater visibility, greater convergence, greater consolidation. And so the channel partners are needing to meet the needs of that customer. I also see the customers grappling with how do we embrace AI, but also how do we defend against AI. And so when you look at these two major force movements happening, just a complete transformation of how companies consume network and security, alongside this transformation of everybody's moving to a digital and AI based era, the channel partner is sitting at this epicenter going, how do I meet all these customers' needs? How do I continue to grow and learn and evolve and not stay with the same old way of doing things, because the market's shifting and the partner has to be ready to drive that change as well.
Yeah. So, what kind of insights can you give to partners for driving that change and being aware of and reacting to those shifts?
I talk to partners a lot about, I recognize the investments that you have made that got you here today. Many of them have picked, a few key horses to ride, so to speak, and they've gone all in. They have created deep benches of expertise, of professional services staff. And certifications. There've been a lot of dollars and time invested to get them where they are today. But what I talk to partners about is you have got to start thinking about future proofing your business model because the customer is no longer choosing these individual point solutions. The customer is choosing to move towards a world of convergence delivered via SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, which Cato was founded to deliver. And yes, it's hard to kind of unhook yourself from what got you here, but if partners aren't preparing themselves for the future and where the market is headed and how the end customer is going to consume network and security services, not continue to deploy a bunch of point products, then they are going to be left in the dark. And so we're really having that future proof conversation and helping partners think about how do I transition away from what got me here and into what will drive my business into the next generation.
Do you see any resistance from partners to that approach, especially ones that have gone all in on a single solution?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's resistance. They know it's coming. They know it has to happen. It's more how do they make that transition? How quickly can they make the transition? When you take this over to, for instance, an MSP conversation, think about an MSP who's maybe managing vendor A for firewall and vendor B for SD-WAN and vendor C for another point solution. They've invested in a tech stack and the certifications and the delivery services to take that to market. What Cato's coming to the table and doing is saying, hey, look, we're giving you one platform to deliver all these services you've previously had to cobble together through different vendors. They love the sound of that because now they get to train and certify on one platform. Now they don't have to patch and maintain multiple disparate platforms. Cato does that for them, but it is still a transition and a journey. They've got to unhook the customer from what they're consuming today. And as those renewals come up, they're looking at that as an inflection point to get the customer onto something like Cato Networks and a better way of securing their enterprise.
Yeah. It's a lot of steps, it's a lot of insight, and I'm just really glad that there's folks like you who can help us understand what's coming next and where we've been and where we're going. Is there anything else that we left out that you would like to include here today?
I think one of the things that I'm just most excited about for the channel partners of Cato Networks is I think the market is hungry for this movement that we're doing. What do I mean by that? We have this incredible product, world-class POC win rates, world-class customer retention rates. The product works, the customer loves it. You then combine that with a market acceleration where SASE is expected to be a $27 billion industry in the next few years. The market is heating up and is ready for what we're delivering. And then you combine that with the partnership opportunity. The channel is starving for a true partner first teammate in this space. And Cato has been partner first and channel only from the day we were founded. And I think when you put those three things together, product, partnership, and market opportunity, it's really exciting, not only for me to be here at Cato Networks, but for the partners who come along the ride with us.
I love to hear that. Okay, I always ask the last question. What book is on your shelf right now that you think everybody should be reading?
Oh, I have these right behind me, and there are, I would say, two that I go to every day. So one's a little more faith-based, one's leadership promises for every day. I just take a look at the day's date and get my mindset for leading the team well each morning. And then Strength Finders is a great one. It's
Classic.
one that I need to pull out and read again. I think that's one we should all read about every 5 years or so.
I think we all have our one book that we keep coming back to over and over. Mine is You Inc., which is about personal branding and communication.
To read that, yeah.
It's a old I read it in college, and every 3 or 4 years, I come back to it, and I'm like, "Oh, this is a new gem. This is something I can implement now." So, highly recommend as well. So, Strength Finders and You Inc., those are our 2 recommendations for today.
I love it, going in the to be read pile.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Addie. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for your time and energy and everything that you bring to the channel. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I am so excited to be here with you for our second year of Channel Women in Security. Please like and subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you in person real soon.